Hello and welcome back to the Opener Sorcery. It's Devi, and today on Devi's Divination Corner, we are going to be covering Scapulimancy. So Scapulimancy is the first branch of osteomancy that really just drew my attention. And this is because of how widespread this is over the entirety of the globe. And how very, very similar the methods of reading the scapula are between cultures, which to me, that's just there's divine insight somewhere there, which I absolutely adore. So, scapula, that is the shoulder bone of the animals. Now, in the Americas, that would be caribou, that would be deer, that would be elk, that would be the animals that they are hunting down. In Asia, so China, Mongolia, that's more along the lines going to be ox or cattle. Now, there have been, of course, pig, sheep, and deer, but from what I gather, majority of it is along the lines of ox and cattle. Now, in Europe, it goes more into the smaller animals that are actually farmed versus hunted down. So sheep, goats, things of that nature. It's so fascinating to me because all of these cultures, all of these different parts of the world, and they do it the same way. Well, majority the same way. So, Scapulimancy, we're going to start kind of in the Americas for this. So, with the Naskapi Innu or the Cree, the Mistassini Cree, they would more so use this whenever they are having difficulties, they are having famine. This is more of a sacred practice rather than we're just going to read as we eat kind of thing. No, because the shoulder of the animal would be treated very well. So where the rest of the animal might be roasted, this one is going to be boiled, and it is going to be boiled to the point where all of the meat, all of the tendons, all of that is coming off. And then it's going to be dried. And the reader, the mystic, the shaman, at that point, is going to go through the ritual cleansing, all of the self-cleansing so that they're not bringing their energy to it, and they're just able to read what's going on. Very much with them, it is used as a map, from what I understand. So the scapula has a raised plane, which kind of, if you're looking at it, kind of looks like a mountain in the middle. And that is seen as the upper side. So you boiled off all of the bits that could be eaten, the grist, the fat, the skin, the tendons, the meat, all of it is gone. And you would dry it, and you dry it until that thing is literally bone dry. Ha ha ha, I made it funny. So, it's dried. They do the ritual to cleanse themselves, and to actually read it, they would stick the scapula on hot coals. And the cracks and scorch marks that happened on the scapula itself would be the indications of good fortune, bad fortune, luck, or lack thereof. So, from what I gather with this, most of the time, there would be a singular crack. There would be a singular crack, and all the other cracks off of that would kind of dictate whether it was good or bad. So, with Scapulimancy, like I said before, there is a plane of it that comes up kind of like a mountain. In the Americas with the Cree and the Innu, they would use that as a map saying, okay, this is where we find the animals. This is where we find more caribou. This is where we are able to gather more resources for ourselves. The initial crack will typically be like in the middle of the scapula itself. Anything that is coming from the underside, so the one with the raised surface is considered the upper part. The other side of the bone is considered evil. That is considered negative. And any cracks that are coming from that side over to the top side would be considered a bad omen. So, the scorch marks themselves, from what I am gathering through depictions and things of that nature, the scorch marks themselves would tell you where the animal was, and any lines going to that scorch mark would be like, hey, you got your kill. You got food at the end of this line. There is the ability to get what you want at the end of this line. Which seems very simple, but in the diagrams that I'm seeing, it could be a little bit difficult to read sometimes, because there will be lines, but you don't get anything because the lines are missing the scorch marks. There's a deviation there. And so you're just missing it. It's there, but you're just missing it. Or those ones are not for you, in a sense. So in the Americas, that's how that has been done. The ones in China kind of confused me a little bit, because there were drilled divots into the bone itself. So I don't necessarily understand why they would do that in order to incite the cracks, because to me, that seems more like manipulation of the results. But maybe I just need to do a little bit more research on that one to come to an understanding of it. But the funny part is, in China, from what we're seeing, the ones that had the drilled divots into it were the ones that were used like in the royal courts and with nobility. The other form of scapulimancy that you would see in the Americas was what was used by the lower caste, or those that are, peasants. But it was used the exact same way. So to me, because of the drilled divots into the bone, my brain goes, so are they really reading what they're reading, or are they trying to manipulate the court and the royalty into doing their bidding? But that is just kind of my overview and my ick with it until I understand. With Europe was a little bit different. Now, in Europe, instead of cracking the bone over a fire, it would be, inside of the soup or whatnot. And then reading a scapula would be holding it up to the light and then interpreting the shadowy bits in the transparent parts of the bone. So shadow, is going to be more darker aspects. If it's completely clear, that is a good omen. If there are bits inside of the bone that are darker, that's going to indicate some difficulties. And especially with, specifics on what questions that you're asking during divination. That's really going to depend on the question as to context of the outcome. Now, there is another one that is based in Scotland. And I have looked up how to pronounce this. So, Slinneanachd, as far as I understand, it does not look like Slinneanachd. But this one actually helped me understand how the ones in America were based and how this stuff was read. I am going to include the websites in the description, because I find this person went in and did a fantastic job. But with a lot of these Scapulimancy and Slinneanachd, it is really figuring out what's going on in terms of how successful you're going to be overall. Now, just for the sacredness of it, I have a great appreciation for specifically how the Cree approached it, because it took more of a group effort than just a reader or a shaman sitting there and saying, this is what it is. Because after the ceremony of looking at the scapula, they would have a child bring it around to the homes of the rest of the village, the rest of the tribe, to get their indications on it as well. And so it would be more by community rather than just an individual declaring something, which I find refreshing. So refreshing. But that is really the overview of scapulimancy that I have. I think it is a wonderful practice, and especially if you are a hunter, just make sure, we're honoring the animal and take it as a sign from nature to read the bones, because the bones are going to tell you a lot. All right, this is Devi on the Opener Sorcery and Devi's Divination Corner, and you guys have a fantastic night. Have a good one.